So the Toronto Raptors defeated the Houston Rockets 117 to 115. Great win overall without Fred VanVleet and OG Anunoby. They're going to be preparing for the playoffs. And with them out, it basically gives them more time to rest. So without them, Pascal Siakam did most of the damage on offense and played exceptionally well today with Gary Trent Jr. and Scotty Barnes. And the Houston Rockets, they actually kept it pretty close down in the fourth, and overall both teams played pretty well. So we're gonna go over the game, talking about the box score and some notes overall. So what's up? I'm JDC. If you like the video, drop it below, subscribe to the channel, I'd appreciate it. And let's get into the video. So we'll start off with the Raptors side of things on the box score. Siakam, 29 points, 12 rebounds, 7 assists with 3 steals and a block on 12 of 24 from the field and 0 of 2 from 3. Siakam, he's doing his Siakam things. Last game he dropped a triple-double, 30-point triple-double. This game, he almost dropped a near triple-double again. So he's been playing at a high level recently with Fred VanVleet out. And this is what I want to see from Pascal Siakam because, if VanVleet is injured in the playoffs or in even any playoff game at that, they're going to need Siakam to go off, and he's been doing that in the absence of Fred VanVleet. So great game overall from Pascal Siakam. Gary Trent with 26 points, 1 rebound, and 3 steals on 9 of 21 from the field and 5 of 8 from 3. Wasn't all that efficient from the field, but he did have 5 3-pointers out of 8, so that's a good sign right there. Trent, he's also been playing well, with VanVleet out, so he's been getting a little bit more touches on the ball and more shot attempts, so great game from Gary Trent. Scotty Barnes, 16 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1 steal on 7 of 13 from the field. Scotty Barnes, I think one more game, or if they have one more game left, I think they have one more game against the New York Knicks. So if he goes off in that game for like a 20-10 game, I think he should be over Mobley. I think he already should be over Mobley right now with him being injured. So honestly, Scotty Barnes, he's my throne for the Rookie of the Year. Him and Cade Cunningham. I've said this in my previous Raptors videos, but him and Cade Cunningham are both thrones for Rookie of the Year for me. So great game from Scotty Barnes. Khem Birch drawing another start with 8 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. I don't really know why they started Khem Birch today. They could have started Precious and then started Siakam at the 5. I think that would have been a little bit better. With Şengün and Usman Garuba of the Houston Rockets not being that great at the center position, they really didn't need all that size, and they could have ran small ball 5 to match their small ball 5, because Şengün's like 6'9", 6'10", so, Khem Birch did his things today. Didn't play too bad today. He had a little bit of a better stat line compared to last night, but played pretty well overall across the board. So finally, in the starting lineup, Armoni Brooks, surprisingly with 2 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists. Man, Armoni Brooks, I didn't really think he would get the start today. I think Malachi Flynn would have been a better start with Armoni being basically a 3-point shooter, basically a pure 3-point shooter. Malachi Flynn, I think he can run the offense a little bit better, but they really do need that 3-point shooting, and he didn't provide anything on offense today, but he did have 4 rebounds and 3 assists, so pretty okay game from Armoni. Now looking at the bench, Thad Young, 14 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal on 6 of 8 from the field. Thad Young, he's been amazing for this team off the bench, and being that role player and that veteran that they needed off the bench is going to be very valuable for them in the future and even on the bench too. So he was really the only person to score. Precious did have 8 points and 1 rebound. Chris Boucher, 6 points and 5 rebounds. I don't know. It was pretty interesting to see Thad Young being the only scorer off the bench with double figures. So great game from the Raptors right here. We'll go over the Rockets side of things here pretty briefly. We'll start off with the man of the game, Kevin Porter Jr., 35 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals on 12 of 23 from the field and 4 of 9 from 3. Man, KPJ, he's been absolutely amazing in terms of offense in the last 2 games. His assist ratio in the last 2 games haven't been too great, racking up at least 8 in the last 2 games. But his point totals, this game alone, 35 points. Last game he had like 36, I want to say. And he's been on a tear in the last 10 games, averaging around 20 points per game, 20 points, 7 assists, and 5 rebounds. He's been going off in this later half of the season, and if we can get this KPJ going into next season, I think the Rockets can definitely be a play-in team. So looking at the next player, Alperen Şengün with 17 points, 2 rebounds, and 3 assists with a steal on 7 of 12 from the field and 0-2 from 3. Şengün, he's also been able to go off with Christian Wood out, not being in the center position anymore. Şengün is going to be drawing more starts, and he's been able to score in double figures when Christian Wood has been out. And, looking at the previous games, he's been able to score in double figures too. So Şengün this game didn't really rebound the ball all too well. I've said this before, he's 6'10", 240 pounds. So same height as Christian Wood, but does weigh a little bit more. So great game from Şengün. Jae'Sean Tate, 12 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists on 5 of 11 from the field, and 1 of 3 from 3. I think my opinion on Tate has changed a little bit. He's been very underwhelming in the later half of the season, and as of right now, he still does not have a 3-point shot. If you look at his overall shooting splits this season, 31% from 3 isn't all that great. I would like him to be able to at least take the 3 whenever, because he's been able to get open a lot this game and hasn't really taken them at all. So Jae'Sean Tate, he's a good player, good defensive player, good wing, rugged player, but I really do need him to take some more 3s. So there's not really too much to talk about for the other guys. Jalen Green had 8 points and 6 rebounds with 3 assists. Pretty horrible game. 5 turnovers on 3 of 10 from the field. They were locking up Jalen Green, the Raptors. They put Jalen Green on lockdown, which makes sense because the Raptors are a great defensive team. But I would have liked to see Jalen Green at least score a little bit more today. So finally, Garrison, 9 points and 5 rebounds and 2 assists. And looking at the bench, there are some guys we can talk about. And then Josh Christopher with 20 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and 1 steal on 9 of 12 from the field and 2 of 4 from 3. Christopher, he's going to have these type of games off the bench where he's going to go absolutely insane. But then the next game, he's going to have like 5 points. So I'm all for this Josh Christopher game. Over the season, he's actually shooting 30% from the 3. So he's a very streaky shooter overall. Looking at the other guys, Usman Gruba, definitely an interesting player off the bench. 5 points, 3 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, and a block. His defense today was actually played very well, and honestly, off the bench, he could be a good forward for this team. Obviously, he does need to work on his offense a little bit more because it's very much raw still. So if he can get a 3-point shot, he actually did make a 3-pointer today, 1 3-pointer, but I would like him to get some more shot attempts, some more touches, and overall just get involved in the offense a little bit more. So looking at some notes today, Van Vliet for the Raptors. We'll start with the Raptors side of things. No Van Vliet today. They played well regardless without Fred Van Vliet, with no true ball handler today. They played pretty well again, with playing against the Sixers last night. No Van Vliet in that game, and they already played pretty well in that game too. So great game from the Raps overall. Siakam playing at a high level with Fred Van Vliet out. They really do need the 2 leaders in Siakam and Fred Van Vliet to just lead this team, because in the playoffs, I think they can make some noise depending on who they verse in the first round. And overall, I think they're going to make a pretty deep playoff push. So they did come back from a 20-point deficit in the first half. It was horrible. I want to say by the end of the first quarter, it was like 36-20, and then by the end of the second, it was like 40 to something. I forgot what it was, but it was a bad game overall in the first half. But then the Raps definitely picked it up in the second half. Siakam was a huge factor in them coming back today. Same thing with Gary Trent, and they basically kept the Rockets on lockdown for most of the second half. So defense, very questionable today. It wasn't that bad, but there were a lot of times where Nick Nurse tried to run a full court press in like the second quarter. I want to say it was super questionable to run that full court press because that's only used in crunch time. And running a full court press in like the second quarter just doesn't make any sense at all, because they can break it, if they know how to break the press. But defense was pretty questionable today. Usman Gruba, he had some effect on the Raptors offense today. Nothing too amazing, but they still got it done on offense today. Offense was pretty stagnant in the first half. Until the second half, they really picked it up, but the offense in the first half was very horrible. They couldn't get anything done. A lot of steals from KPJ, and on the offensive end, they were just getting a lot of turnovers. So they started to close the gap in the second quarter. It was still like a 20... Actually, no. By the end of the first quarter, it was like a 9-point lead, I want to say, for the Houston Rockets, and they started to close the gap in the third quarter. And it was a great game overall for the Raptors coming back from a 20-point deficit. It was a great game overall from the Raptors coming back from that 20-point deficit. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about for the Raptors is that they did a great job containing Jalen Green. With Jalen having his 7th consecutive 30-point game last game, they shut that down essentially, and they did a good job locking up Jalen Green. Scottie Barnes did a pretty okay job guarding KPJ today, but obviously went off for 35 points. So for the Rockets, They played pretty well today, played their hearts out today. It was a great game. This is what I want to see. Well, this is what I wanted to see from the Houston Rockets this season, but they didn't produce at all. If they're as long as the young guys are playing well and just giving their heart out on the court, I'd be okay with it, because at least if we lose, they play pretty well and it helps with our tanking job. So KPJ did most of the damage on offense today. In fact, he's become a scorer in some of the recent games with a low assist rate. I've said this before. KPJ, his true skill set is being a scorer, and his secondary skill set is being a playmaker. But I don't really understand the hate KPJ gets for scoring the ball. I've been scrolling on Rockets Twitter recently, and they're hating on KPJ having a low assist rate. And I don't really get it, because KPJ, as long as he's scoring and playing a great game, I'm all for it, because he's he's our point guard for the future. It makes sense. He's our point guard. And if he's not, at least, I guess, like, playmaking the ball, then I'd see some problem. But he's having a great game offensively, and you can't really say anything bad about that. So the role players played pretty well today. Josh Christopher, Usman Garuba, Alperen Şengün, they played all very well. And defense was probably some of the best I've seen this season, honestly. They played defense very well today, without Christian Wood, Eric Gordon, and Dennis Schroeder. They played pretty well on defense today, and Josh Christopher played well off the bench. Şengün going off without Wood in the lineup. Great game overall from the Rockets offensively, and some downsides to this game. 10 of 29 from the 3 today was very bad. Same thing with the Raptors. They went 7 of 29 from the 3, 24%. So very horrible shooting night from each team from the 3. A lot of times the Houston Rockets went small ball 5 with Garuba, which didn't really work out, but the Rockets, they're pretty much they're depleted at the center position right now, with Şengün being the only true center. Usman Garuba is really just the next man up right now. So great game from the Raptors. They do versus the New York Knicks next on, they do versus the New York Knicks on Sunday. So hopefully they can win against the Knicks and go Raptors. So that's the video. I'm BDC, and I'm out.